Hello and hello everybody and welcome to STEM Alive for Kids for National Science Week 2021. How's your week been? Looking forward to the weekend? Well, have we got something to finish your week off with a bit of a bang? Maybe charge it with a little bit of energy, if you pick up what I'm saying. Firstly, I'd just like to give a quick thank you, of course, to the Department of Education and the Peter Underwood Centre. But most importantly, I'd like to thank you for making this absolutely one of our most successful shows and presentations that we've done for a very, very, very long while, or even perhaps ever. So it's a big thanks to you, that's right, you, and everyone else who's supported us. So this week we have, of course, for our last episode, alas, we do have a very special guest. You might remember him from earlier in the week. It is, of course, the wonderful, the spectacular Evan Franklin. Hello, Evan. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, everyone.
So, how have you? How's your week been?
It's been pretty good. I've been energetic, doing lots of busy things, and looking forward to this morning.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I'm glad. So, before we jump in, because I believe you have a few activities that we're going to be trying to do today. Is that correct?
I do. I'm gonna get students busy today.
Oh, exciting! Well, before we do that, we'd just like to give a quick little. A little interesting video clip. So everyone, you'll remember for most of the week, we've been talking about insects and poo. Well, we have a great little clip. This clip is from Kylie at St. Joseph's. So let's have a look. What did Kylie send us?
Yum.
She looked like she was loving that. That was, of course, eating one of the pre-prepared bugs. Remember, all week we know that bugs can be used as food and bugs have energy in them.
They do.
There you go. And, of course, bugs take energy and, it's just energy all over the place. So, speaking of energy, of course, Evan is the expert on energy. So, Evan, what do you think? Do you want to get started?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, on Monday we talked about energy and how energy is everywhere. And we might go to our slides now if we could. And we had these photos and we talked about them. This is energy that's being used in the city and all around the world, and it's in lights in city buildings, it's in trains that go super fast and convert all that electrical energy to kinetic energy. It's when we're cooking, it's watching TV, making stuff, and I didn't put the apple juice bottles in there, but it's everything we make, everything we do uses energy. And we said, but some people use much more energy than others, and that's what we're going to look at today is how much energy we use and where we use it around the house. But to start with, I did ask people if they wanted to go and think about how much energy is used in different countries, and so I did that myself during the week, and I'll share with you what I found. I found that in some countries we use a lot more energy than other countries, and we talked about some of the reasons why, and we'll look at that again just briefly now. But let's have a look. I love these colourful column charts, and I know that in grade 5 and 6 you've probably learned how to do these yourself. You can do ones by hand, or I'm a bit lazy and I use the computer to do mine for me. But I have brought my colouring pencils in today for something else, Sam.
Oh.
But have a look at this. This is the amount of energy that every person uses on average in Australia. Mm-hmm. I chose Australia because obviously we live here. That's the big blue column. In Brazil, I chose that because I was watching the soccer during the Olympics, and the Brazilian soccer team they're so clever, so skillful with the ball. China, a big country near us. France, I chose France because I like the croissant and all of the yummy French food.
Pâté de culture.
Exactly. India and Kenya, two countries, both have a lot of people that live in them. And one of those photos I showed last week of the market in India, and I've got that again to remind you, shows you just how different the energy use is in some countries compared to others. And well, actually, I discovered, Sam, that of all of the countries in the world, Australia uses more energy per person than pretty much any other country in the world. Wow. And I was trying to think about why that would be. And you remember last week we showed, this is, of course, Japan. I didn't put a chart up there for Japan, but this is a busy city, maybe like what you'd have in a Chinese city or a a busy French city or in Australia in the middle of, perhaps not Hobart, I haven't seen it like that, but in the middle of Sydney or Melbourne where there's a lot of energy being used. And this is that market that we showed you in India, and you really can't see a lot of energy being used there at all, at least not that we can see in that photo. And so that sort of gives you an indicator of why there's a big difference in the amount of energy that's used in some places compared to others. And then I thought about transport. We use a lot of energy to get around in trains and buses and cars, but actually the type of car that you use can influence how much energy your country uses and how much you use. And so here on the left there's a big car, a four-wheel drive, which we probably have quite a few of in Australia. And a small car there on the right, which uses a lot less energy to move you from one place to another. Of course, when we hop in our car, we might want to cart loads of bricks around with us or something heavy, and we might have to choose a car that will suit. But the choices that we make influence how much energy we use. And when I was looking at car pictures, I found a couple of other more extreme versions, which I really like. So the one on the left here is uses a lot of energy. This is a monster truck. You probably don't need that to go down to the shops. And the one on the right, this is the cutest car I think I've ever seen. And look at the number plate there, Sam.
P. Very cute.
I thought there's a nice link with food there as well. Imagine driving that car around. You would certainly have, well, either of those cars, you'd have everyone looking at you. But I can guarantee the one on the left would probably use 3 or 4 times as much energy compared to that little P car on the right to get around.
It'd be perfect for dropping the kids off during peak hours at school, though.
It would be, wouldn't it? Which one?
The monster truck. Going to go the monster truck. There you go.
What about you kids? Which one would you like to be dropped off outside school in? The monster truck or the little P car? I think I'd like the little P car.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I want us to think today about energy that we use in our houses. And I'm going to take you through some photos from my morning. But before I do that, I want you to think about what you did this morning and what you did when you hopped up and how you might have used energy. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not so obvious. So let's have a look. First off, here's me this morning. You know, I don't do well in the morning. It takes me a while to wake up. As you can see there, the sun's rising and I'm slowly starting to wake up. And I think I've got there now, Sam.
Oh, good. Glad to hear it.
But
we have fire.
First thing I do is go and jump in the shower, and I like a nice hot shower in the morning. But that hot water, remember we said heat is just one form of energy. That water wasn't hot when it came to my house. It came in the pipe and it was cold water. We've used energy to make it hot. We've converted, in my case, electrical energy that came in over some wires into heat or thermal energy. And I've used that to have a nice warm shower, and I woke up a little bit. The next stop was my coffee machine. And I know, Sam, you like a morning coffee as well.
Oh, you got me.
And I had to get some milk out of the fridge to make my coffee. And both of those use energy. The coffee machine uses energy to heat up the water to make my coffee or heat up my milk. The fridge is an interesting one. I really like fridges, not because they contain lots of yummy food, and you can see all the yummy food in my fridge there.
Fair bit. It looks pretty good.
It's pretty good. But I like fridges because they're a really interesting use of energy. The fridge needs to be cold, and I don't know if you've ever taken your hand and felt around the back of a fridge. It's quite warm. What the fridge does is it actually moves energy from inside the fridge to outside the fridge.
Interesting.
Sometimes we call it a heat pump. It pumps heat, which is a form of energy from inside the fridge, because you want it to be cold. You don't want heat inside the fridge, to outside the fridge. But it takes energy to pump that heat from inside to outside the fridge. And I'm going to come back to that technology because we can use that, and some of you would use that in your home already, to move heat around to heat up your house or maybe heat up hot water. So there's energy being used there.
And in opposite sort of size, the coffee machine makes things hot and the refrigerator is making things cold.
Yes, and wouldn't it be good if I could somehow combine the two and get the heat from the fridge out and into my coffee machine?
You could have an iced coffee in the morning and you could have hot food. It'd be great.
Yeah. Well, you know, actually there are some people working on technology that would do that, where you heat up, you cool down your house in summer, but at the same time you heat up the hot water that you need to have your shower in the morning, and you just move energy from one spot to another.
That's very cool. Well, it's
Yeah.
like you said on Monday, we don't create energy, we just sort of move it from one spot to another.
We don't create any energy in the world, we just move it around and convert it from one form to another. Oh, sorry, I missed. Now, some mornings, if you hop up really early, you need to turn the lights on, and lighting is another form of energy. And where does that energy come from? Well, for most, or for all houses in Tasmania, that energy comes over the wires into your house in the form of electrical energy, and then we convert it to light energy. And maybe some of you remember your mum or your dad or the adults in your house changing lights over, but probably a few years ago now, from an old style of light that actually turned most of the energy into heat, which we didn't really want. We wanted light. But the technology is getting better and better so that maybe most of that energy now is turned into light. And you can see a couple of different lights here on in my house. What other ways do I use energy in the morning? Well, there's the kettle and the toaster. You know how I love a bit of toast and Vegemite in the morning.
Oh,
kids?
yes.
Yeah. But that takes energy to heat up that toast, and it takes energy to heat up that water if I'm going to make a nice cup of tea or have some hot water for making some porridge, perhaps. So energy, I'm using energy all the time. And then I headed in here. And how did I get in here? Well, I drove in and I drove a car. This is one of our cars. We've got two cars, actually. And I put petrol in that car, and that's a form of energy. And we convert that energy in the petrol into kinetic energy. So again, using more energy. Everything I do, it turns out, Sam, I'm using energy.
Wow.
Yeah. I should have ridden my bike in, and then I would have had to have had that really big breakfast that I had on Monday.
So you would have still had to have energy
I
in
would
order
have
to
still had
convert
energy.
it to other energy
That's
still.
right, exactly. And then when I get home tonight, it's probably going to be a bit chilly. It's a nice day at the moment, but when I get home tonight, it's probably going to be a bit chilly, and I'm going to want to heat up the house. And everyone heats up their house maybe one of a few different ways. We have a wood fire, and it's really nice. Heats up the house,
Looks very nice.
yeah, but it takes energy to do that. Well, however you heat up your house, it's going to take energy. You've got to convert one form of energy into heat. And what we do is we convert energy that's stored, hard to believe, but stored in wood. And actually, that reminds me, Sam, we did get some wood delivered, and I've got to spend the weekend moving it into the woodshed. And it's going to take a lot of energy to do that, so I better remember to have a big breakfast tomorrow morning if I'm going to do that. So we use energy in lots and lots of different ways. And now what I want to do is, well, later I'm going to get you to think about how you use energy in your house. And I've got a nice worksheet which I'll take you through, which some of you might want to take home. Teachers, I'm looking at you. You might want to encourage your kids to do it, and you might need to help them after the weekend to draw a nice, pretty energy flow diagram. And the reason we do that is to understand where you use your energy and where that energy comes from. That really helps you make decisions about how I might do things differently and what it might change in terms of how my energy is sourced or where it comes from, and how much I need to use. And so we're going to think firstly about where all that energy comes from. So in my house, thinking about the energy that I've just talked about using, a lot of it comes from electricity or comes in the form of electrical energy. Some of it you saw comes in the form of wood, which we usually refer to as, it's a word you might not have heard of, biomass. But it's mass.
Are we
is like
biomass?
weight. Well, we are biomass. Yeah. Anything that's grown, that's living, and will contain energy. Wood, the corn. Do you remember the corn I showed you earlier?
Yeah, and how it gets turned into ethanol.
It can get turned into ethanol. You could turn wood into ethanol and put it in your petrol tank, but it's pretty hard to do that. It's much more useful to burn it if you want to use the energy. But of course, there's a lot of discussion about whether you should use wood and where that wood actually comes from. And then there's the petrol that goes into my petrol tank, and that comes from a petrol station, and that's dug up or pumped out of the ground, but not in Tasmania, somewhere else, and then delivered to us to Tasmania. And the energy that comes into the house for most of my uses comes over wires, over
Okay.
power lines. And you've probably seen power lines like these ones on the left in your street, perhaps. And you might have seen power lines like the ones on the right when you drive around the countryside. And those are big ones that take energy from big power stations and deliver them to the city and to households.
Wow.
And then in Tasmania, there's really two places where that electrical energy comes from. And you might remember I showed you the picture of the dam. That's a dam in Tasmania which stores the water that's gone uphill or up into the sky from the sun, evaporating the rivers and the lakes and the sea, and then falling down into the lakes and rivers, and then being rushed down a tunnel, which is shown in this picture there.
Interesting.
Through a turbine. That's the spinny thing that we talked about last week, Sam. And that makes then electricity. And that's all a bit of magic. It's something that I study and I teach at universities. How do we make that electricity? And then it gets delivered to your house. And in Tasmania, the other way that we make a lot of energy and electrical energy is via wind turbines. Quite a few big wind farms. And this is, we call it a wind farm because it's like a farm full of wind turbines that makes energy rather than making wool or corn.
Do you have to water them?
You don't have to water them. No. No, they grow very quickly all on their own.
Wow, amazing. Nature is an amazing thing.
Yeah. So that's energy in the house, how we use it or where we use it, where it comes from. But there's one other form of energy that we've actually got in our house, and I'm going to show you now.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of examples. You can have one, Sam, if you
I'd
like,
love
to play
one.
with as well.
We can go to the top-down
Maybe we
camera,
should go to the top-down camera for this. This, what I'm showing you here, is a solar cell, and it's very thin. It's made of silicon, actually, which is what sand is made of. In fact, they take really nice pure sand and turn it into silicon, and then they make solar cells. And this would be making electricity right now because it's in a bit of light. When you put this in the sunshine and you connect some wires up to these little silver, they're actually made of silver, these little silver strips, then you get electricity out. And probably 1 in every 7 or 8 houses in Tasmania has some of these solar panels on their roof. And I've got a picture now of the solar panels that are on my roof. And so some of that electrical energy is made by those solar panels that I use.
Look at that.
And some of you at home might have solar panels on your roof as well.
So solar panels go on other things, not just houses?
You can get solar panels on big buildings, big warehouses. You can get solar panels on a farm. In fact, where I showed you the wind farm before, we also, and I don't have a picture of it, but maybe you can go and look it up. If you look up solar farm, yeah, it's a farm that makes solar energy, makes electrical energy, and it's just full of these solar panels, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of them, all lined up together. You can put solar panels on cars, but they don't really produce enough energy to make the car run. But you might have solar panels on your roof, and if you've got an electric car, you might charge it up from those solar panels. And then you're not using petrol energy, you're using electrical energy that comes from solar.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So one thing that is really useful to think about then is how that energy gets converted from one form to another, where you use it and where it comes from. And so now we're going to talk about this activity that I've made.
Oh,
yeah, which is going to keep you pretty busy. I told you last time on Monday that one of my favourite charts is called a Sankey diagram. It's an energy flow diagram. And people use these all around the world to work out how much energy they're using and where that energy comes from. And normally they might do it for a country or for the whole world or for a state like Tasmania.
Wow.
But we can actually do it for our own house. And I'm going to get you to do that yourself on the weekend if you want to. I'll firstly show you what one of those energy diagrams looks like, and then I'll show you the activity that we've got to do, and I'll go through it with you doing my house
Ooh.
and drawing a nice colourful chart showing where the energy comes from and where it's used in my house. And then you can take it home and do it yourself. You might need to get your older brother or sister or your adult in your house to help you answer some of the questions, but you could do it yourself.
Beautiful.
So this one, it's a pretty
Wow.
busy looking chart. This is all of the energy for the whole world. Now, I'm going to just highlight a couple of the most important bits.
Okay.
On one side, on the right, as you're looking at it on the screen, is where we use energy.
Okay.
And we either use energy in industry, that's making stuff, making those bottles of apple juice, making cars, making all sorts of things, TVs, or we use it for transport, which is getting around in cars and trains and buses or aeroplanes. And then the other one that we use it in is buildings, which is what we showed you before, or what I showed you for my house, but also for offices and schools, everywhere where there's energy used within a building or workplace or office. And then that's where the energy is used, and you can see all those complicated lines and squiggles. Don't worry, it won't be that complicated for our house, and where it comes from. And the really interesting thing is, most of that energy in the world today comes from oil and coal and gas. Huge amounts of it. And then there's bioenergy. Remember, that's the wood and other forms of energy like the corn that can be used for energy. And renewables is actually a pretty small. Renewable energy is like what we have in Tasmania, hydropower or water energy, wind energy or solar energy. That's a pretty small amount at the moment that's used. But I think kids, as you grow up and when you start working, and by the time you get to my age, this is going to change a lot. We're going to use a lot more renewable energy and a lot less of these other forms of energy, because we know, we already talked about on Monday, some of the side effects, the slow dangerous, if you like, of using so much of that, what we call fossil fuels. So it's pretty complicated, isn't it?
It does look mighty complex.
We're going to do it for our house.
All right.
I don't know how this is going to go, Sam, but we're going to try and do it for our house. I've got a sheet for you, Sam, and I've sent one to teachers, and I don't know how clearly we're going to be able to see it on this
We'll go to top down.
top-down camera.
Yeah,
Actually.
it'll be okay.
So I've got lots of sheets of paper. The first one we don't need to look at. It's instructions. You'll need to look at it, or your teacher will need to look at it. The second one is one that's got lots and lots of boxes, and it's really hard to see that, isn't it? What I might need to do is put it up on something a bit higher.
That's all right. We can do that. But what's the while we're finding a box? So
Yes.
how does this work? So we tick the boxes one by one. Is that the idea?
So we're going to circle boxes.
Ah.
We're going to look at each. There's 5 ways that we use energy in the household. There's transport, how you got to school in the morning, how mum and dad get to work.
There we go.
After work. Here we go.
Box we prepared
There
earlier.
we go. There we go. Perfect. Except it's. I'll read them out to you.
All right.
Unless we can put this down a bit lower.
You could
Sorry,
probably
this is-
point with a pencil. But
Yeah.
We'll just use that.
So I want to turn you into energy sleuths.
All right.
Oh,
Doing
there we
it live,
go.
are you? There we go.
Perfect.
Look at that.
And the first thing we're going to look at is transport. And you go home on the weekend, or you can probably do this now. The first one is, how many cars do you have in your house?
Okay.
So in my house, I've got 2 cars. So I'm going to circle 2.
All right. I'm going to circle 0.
0.
Yeah, so I guess I don't
So
circle
didn't
any.
Put there, did I?
Yeah.
What size cars do you have? Well, both of our cars are, I've got small, medium or large. Both of ours are medium, and so I'm going to join those up. And then this is one you'll probably almost certainly have to ask one of the adults in your household, how far does each of those drive every year? And in our case, ours, we probably drive 5 or 6 or 7,000 kilometres. That's a lot every year, so I'm going to circle that one. And I'll join that up with a line. And then finally, is your car electric? There aren't many yet. Or petrol? Ours is petrol. Both of them are. And so I'm going to join those up. And then what I'll need you to do is multiply the numbers that you circled. You can see there's a multiply sign here. 2 times 3. What's that? That's 6.
6.
6 times 2, had to think about that one, is 12. And 12 times 1 is 12. And so I write 12 here.
Yeah, I'm just thinking because even though I don't own a car, I have caught things like taxis and Ubers and stuff like that before.
Yes.
So maybe I would say, does that work in it? So if I go 5,000 kilometres a year,
Yeah, you could do one small car.
One small car. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I go to small. Let's just say small. There we go. And less than that. There we go. So that's 2 times 1, which is 2 times 1 again. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So that makes it 2.
2.
Energy use of 2.
So there you go. In my household, we use 12 units of energy
Wow.
for transport, and every year, and you use 2.
2.
Big difference. Maybe I need to start thinking about getting more Ubers and
I think
getting rid of some of our cars.
maybe get those bicycles going.
The next one
Yeah.
is heating.
Ah, yes.
Now, in winter, every house in Tasmania has to have some heat. Well, I think so.
Yeah.
So I didn't put a no heating at all option, but how big is your house? Well, our house is medium, so I'm going to circle this one.
Alright.
And we have a wood fire. You saw the photos of that. We only turn it on in the evening, put it on. So I'm circling evening only, and I can join those up with a pencil line.
Okay.
And then the next question is, what sort of heater is used in your house? And I've mostly used, what's your main one? We use a wood fire. So I can join those up. Now, this is the trickiest calculation to do, because we need to do 3 times 2 is 6 again. 6 times 4, I'm pretty sure you kids can do that. That's 24. But then I've got to divide by 2 for this one.
All right.
So 24, that's 12 again. So I use
there you go.
12, and I put it in this spot here because it's wood. I use wood energy or biomass for heating.
All right. Excellent. So what have I got here? My heating is small, which is 2, and I usually turn it on the evening only, which is another 2 in my case. So that's 2 times 2 is 4, times 3 because it's electric, which would make that 12, right?
Yeah, and then divide by 2, Sam.
Divide by 2 is 6. Hang on, is it? Yes, it is. It is indeed.
Well, Sam, last week, Sam, you said, I bet I use less energy than you, Evan. I think you might be right.
I think you might be right. There you go. I also use less of my brain as well if we were measuring that. So, there you go.
How are we going for time? Because we could take a break and I could fill out the rest, or we could do another one now.
Do that.
Yeah,
we'll do that. So whilst Evan and I are struggling with the mathematics of this, we will give you all an opportunity to have a brief break and also think about some questions you'd like to ask us. Send them to us, and don't forget to make sure that you add your name and your school so that then we can give you a quick little shout out. That'd be fantastic. So we'll cut to a little short 5-minute break. Think about some questions.
Yep, and then you can do top.
Beautiful. Welcome back, everyone. That was tough. Look at this. Look, we got all kinds of paper. I had to do maths. I haven't done maths for a very, very long time. But I think we've got an excellent result. And don't forget, if you haven't got the sheet with you today, it has been emailed out, so some of you may have received it. And if you haven't received it yet, you can always go to the Peter Underwood Facebook page and it will be uploaded there. And Evan, do you have any other places that it might be put up?
No, I think that's the best spot to put it.
Beautiful.
I'm very happy to have any sent to me or questions you've got for me because, as I said, I love this energy kind of business.
That's his business. His business is the energy business.
And Sam, I've got to say, I love nothing more than a combination of maths and colouring in, which is why I've made this. And in that last 5 minutes, I've very frantically worked up a sweat in doing my own house, and you might be able to see that if we go to the top camera. So this is what you'll end up with for your house, but everyone's house will look different. And so I'll show you what this says to me.
All right.
This on the right shows me how much energy I've used, or how much I do use every year And you can see that actually my transport and my heating is quite a lot. I didn't realise it was going to be such a big chunk. And then my hot water, that's a little bit. That's because we've got one of those special heat pumps that pumps the heat from outside into the hot water tank.
Ooh.
We use quite a bit for cooking and cleaning. That's all those big breakfasts I have, Sam.
You're a tall guy.
Yeah. And entertainment and lighting quite a bit as well. But you can see where it comes from. This is where it's really useful. So all of that transport, that brown is our fossil fuels. That's remember the oil and coal and gas that the world uses. So at least you could say we're a fair way ahead of the rest of the world in that respect. Here's my biomass. It's quite a big chunk of energy that I'm getting from that wood. And then all of this other energy, which I've coloured in purple, comes in form of electrical energy. And that comes from power stations, but it's converted to electrical energy. All energy that comes as electrical energy has to come from something else. And in our case in Tasmania, it either comes from hydro or water energy or wind. And I've shown you on the calculation sheet once you got your head around it, Sam, of how to calculate how much is from each. And then in my case, we've got that solar PV system, the solar
really
panels,
big chunk,
these on the top of our roof. And actually they're making up quite a big chunk of the energy that we need, at least the electrical energy. And they're all converted to electrical energy and then go to these other uses. Now, the thing that I really like this for is now that I've done this is the first time I've ever done it for my house, kids, by the way. I've sort of thought about it, but I've never gone and done it. Now I can look at it and go, well, I could make a little bit more solar energy. I could put a few more solar cells on my roof, but not too many because I've only got this little amount of hydro or water and this little amount of wind energy that I currently use.
And your roof's only so big as
well.
well.
My roof's only so big. But then I go, well, actually, maybe I could make some extra electricity, and turn some of this transport energy into electrical energy. If I get an electric car, that'll change things. Or maybe I should use my wood fire less and have an electric heat pump like you do, Sam, at your house.
Yes, it's true.
And make more electricity.
And I suppose using those light bulbs, like energy efficient light bulbs or LEDs, having open natural light where possible, I suppose, if you have curtains that you open up in the morning and things like that. All these things, I guess, reduce, you can either bring in more energy or you can try to reduce the amount of energy you already use, sort of thing, because we can't.
Yeah, absolutely. You can change things at either end of this. I'll also, I think I might scan that and put it up on the on the Peter Underwood Centre, so you can have a look and check out my energy, and it'll help you work out also how you do your own chart. So that's an energy flow diagram. Really useful. Maths, colour. What more could we ask for, Sam?
I know. I mean, hey, that's what it's all about. It's all about understanding it. And just to correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, but am I correct in thinking that the number, so 17 or 12, say, with your energy there, relates to the number of squares that you fill in vertically? Is that correct?
Yes. I didn't say that, but each little square, each little grid corresponds to one of these numbers.
There you go.
So quite easy once you've worked out the numbers to carefully colour it in.
There you go. That's fascinating. Well, thank you, Evan. We're going to look for it. You can upload that and post it on the Peter Underwood Facebook page. And if you at school also want to take a photo of yours, and you can upload it as well to Facebook and just tag the Department of Education and Peter Underwood Centre on it, and we'll be able to share it around and show everybody. And who knows, maybe Evan can give you a nice little review of your energy usage and make some tips.
I'd love to see some. It'd be great.
It'd be fantastic. Now, what do you think? Should we make some answer some questions?
Let's.
Alrighty, let's do it. Let's jump on in. So, first off the ranks here, we have Hayley from Summerdale Primary who asks, what other ways can you use to conserve energy? So we can use less energy, we can get more energy, but maybe what can something all our viewers do right now to save energy?
Well, one of the best things you can do, you can see how much I use for transport, is to walk or ride your bike on short trips instead of taking the car. Or Sam takes buses or maybe gets a taxi if he needs to occasionally. So public transport, that's a good way to reduce your energy use. In the house, shorter showers. I don't know what you kids are like, but sometimes you hop in the shower. I know my kids do, and they just want to stay there. It's nice and warm. But shorter showers means using less energy. I would like to say watching TV a little bit less, but that's a tough one to try and sell to you guys, I reckon.
Mate, it would be a bit tough. Mind you, with the way technology is, depending sometimes, I guess, older technology, if you keep it, it's one of these interesting things. You keep it for longer, that means that they're not having to make more stuff, so they don't use as much energy, but the item in question actually uses more energy itself.
Yeah, that becomes a really complicated question to try and answer. But for example, an older car will use more energy than a newer car to travel from Hobart to Launceston. But the amount of energy we saw in the manufacturing, in the industries and factories, you need a lot of energy to make stuff. And Sam, as you say, working out how much energy it takes to make that new car that you're going to buy, is it worth it? Given that you use less energy each year, it's a complicated maths equation, but you can do it and you can work it out.
I believe it. And I suppose it's like school buses for everyone at home who has a school bus. More kids on the bus, lower energy per person, even if the amount of fuel is, let's say, about maybe even a little bit more than their parents driving them to and from school.
Yeah, that's right. Remember, a bus with 4 or 5 people on it is the same amount of energy being used as 4 or 5 people all driving cars. And so if you get 10 people on it, it's twice as good.
Fascinating. All right, barreling ahead. And don't forget, if we don't get to your question today, don't worry, because we will answer all the questions and we will send them out to your teachers. So everyone will get their question answered, even if we can't answer it live today. So let's have a look here. We have another one here from Malu, from the Tasmanian, who's a Tasmanian homeschooler. Now this is an interesting one because this might be a bit complicated for this particular episode. But how does the magnetic field actually work, and what sort of energy is it using? So how does magnetic energy used in everyday energy storage and production?
Wow, yeah, that is an excellent question. It's a big one. What I can tell you is that all of those generators I showed you, the hydro generator, which has the water running downhill and the turbine, and the wind generator, which has the big blades that go round and round, they all convert energy from mechanical energy into electrical energy, but they all convert it to magnetic energy first. So the way that a motor or a electrical generator works is it stores energy in the magnetic field and then converts it to electrical. And yeah, I think that one, you know what? If you make it to university and come and teach, I teach you in some of my courses, I'll teach you exactly how. That's the main use of magnetic energy. The other one that's really interesting is some of these high-speed trains. I think there's one in Japan. There might be one in China. Have you ever heard of maglev? Really cool technology. That uses magnetic levitation. So the train hovers, if you like, above a train track, and it uses magnetic energy to store and transfer energy to the train to kinetic energy. Really cool technology.
Fascinating.
I could do a whole show on that, I reckon, just about.
Oh, I believe we could play with magnets. Something to keep in for next year, which is why everyone will have to tune in next year as well.
Absolutely.
And make sure, if you want those shout-outs, make sure that you tag both the Peter Underwood Centre and, of course, Department of Education. And you can follow us on, of course, Instagram at UCTV Alive for Kids. And, of course, the Peter Underwood Centre. You can watch past episodes there. And we'll go back because I don't believe there's sound on that one. But if you go to those links, you can always get more information as well. Don't forget, every fortnight UCTV runs, and it's a good program. So I'd recommend that one. So, Evan, let's quickly do some lightning round. What do you think? I think we've got 60 seconds left on the clock.
All
Fantastic. So let's go. Here we go. All right, lightning round. So, Rafi at Illawarra Primary School is wondering about nuclear energy and why it wasn't included.
Very good question. Huge amount of energy in a nuclear energy fuel. It's used elsewhere, not in Australia. It's very expensive now, and it's very hard to build a new plant. And also, a lot of people don't want to have them in their neighbourhood.
Fascinating. And yet, sometimes some fire alarms or fire things still have little bits of radioactive stuff in them, do they? Maybe.
Yes, it's still used in lots of small instruments.
There you go. It's very interesting. Now, here's a good one. This is from Waimea Primary School. This is from Philippa. In Tasmania, how many different types of energy do we make electricity from in Tasmania? Now, that's a very interesting one.
Yeah, so in Tasmania, almost all from water or wind. We have a small amount where we burn gas and turn a turbine and make electricity, but it's not used very often. And solar from people's rooftops. And they're basically the three ways that we generate electricity. Water, wind, and solar.
There you go. That's very interesting. And
Tasmania's not like anywhere else in the world in a way, where we mostly, almost entirely renewable energy already.
That's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
And hopefully we can get, so renewable that we can export it and all kinds of fun stuff.
Exactly, yep.
That'd be exciting. And here we go. We'll finish on this great little question here, which I think is extremely important and will probably change the face of science forever, Evan. So here we go. Andrew from St. Joseph's in Rosebery asks, can you harvest energy from electric eels?
Oh, I'd love to go snorkeling and find out. Yeah, I think they have they're amazing. They generate electricity and light up, and they can attack prey with their electrical pulses. Yeah, it's a great question. Well, let's get a big tank full of them and see if we can harness them, shall we?
There we go. So, Andrew, we're going to come to your school and we're going to go scuba diving and we'll bring you along and you can put the electrodes on the eels and we'll find out. That'll be exciting. Evan, thank you once again for coming in today. It's been fantastic. And thank you for your activity as well. I look forward to filling this out a little bit later on. And I think it's really enlightening because it can really show you how much energy you do use and where you can maybe make some improvements, or maybe where your whole family or perhaps school can even make some changes to make it more efficient.
Yep. So it's just fun to compare as well. Different people, different houses. I mean, we have different size houses. We use different amounts of energy. We can look and compare. Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's science.
It is. It's science.
There you go. Evan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
And thank you, of course, everyone, our wonderful audience. Thank you for coming to the last episode of STEM Alive for Kids for this week, for National Science Week 2021, of course, brought to you by the Peter Underwood Centre and Department of Education. And thank you, most importantly, of course, to the viewer, to you. Hopefully you learned something this week about energy, about poo, about insects, and that you'll have a fantastic time taking all that you've learned and applying it. So, until next time, until next year, this is Sam signing off. Stay smart.